It is certainly America's most important skeleton. It is an exceptionally rare discovery. It does not happen but once in a lifetime.
Have you ever wondered what hidden wonders might be found in a several million-year-old cave? In a shocking turn of event, scientists have made an incredible discovery while investigating the secrets of a cave buried for millions of years. Join us on a fascinating journey as we explore the astounding discoveries made inside 15 caves all around the world. Number 15. Cannibals Cave. We begin our list with a cave that has left scientists speechless after opening is the Cave of the Cannibals. Here they have discovered some prehistoric human remains like that of teenagers and a 3-year-old kid in the cave. The mystery was that our ancestors fed on other humans in a Somerset cave 14,700 years ago. According to a museum study, these Ice Age Britons ate human flesh as part of a ritual rather than out of necessity. Cannibalism may serve as an unsettling reminder of the horrible and repulsive aspects of humanity, but it can also serve as an illustration of sophisticated symbolism, delicate behavior, or the outward expression of a set of values. Humans inhabiting the cave possess long bones and ribs with gnawed and cracked marrow and grease due to chewing of large bones. Cut marks can be seen on other bones where soft tissue has been carefully removed. 3 skulls were expertly carved into cups or bowls. The latest discovery of zigzag marks engraved into an elbow bone to create an intended design is one of the most exciting discoveries. The origins of these marks were initially difficult to identify using 3D analysis and comparison with other etched bone artifacts. According to Sylvia, a scientist, the seeming quantity of animal meat implies that cannibalism during the Paleolithic era at Goff's Cave was about more than feeding oneself. Additional proof for this comes from a thorough examination of the human bones by museum specialists. Despite its terrible sound, making containers from human skulls is a common tradition globally. It has been well documented from the Vikings and the Scythians to more modern populations. The earliest specimens that can be directly dated are the human skull cups discovered at Goff's Cave. Number 14. 9,000-year-old skeleton. A human skull from the Neolithic period dating back 9,000 years was discovered in the archaeological site of Abdol Hosseini Hill in Delphan country. The head and pelvis exhibit traits that indicate the bones belong to a lady in her 30s to 40s. Based on the femur measurement, the skeleton's height is predicted to range from 157 to 165 centimeters. The skull, which is thought to have been deformed by wrapping a bandage around it as an infant, is the most notable feature of the skeleton. This has led to fragile frontal and occipital portions. According to research, deforming the skull served social, ceremonial, and aesthetic goals in the past to distinguish between the sexes or social groups. The Abdol Hosseini Hill skeleton's teeth have undergone isotope testing, which reveals that grain dominated the diet of the time. Number 13. Hellfire Caves. The Hellfire Cave was formerly known as West Wycombe Cave. It is located at the southern extremity of the Chiltern Hills in Buckinghamshire, southeast England, close to High Wycombe. Secret societies initially used the cave for their meetings, and it is an abnormally 360-foot deep network of artificial tunnels made of flints and chalks. The first tunnel's brick walls and educational plaques of the cave are all well known and lined with bricks while rays of sunlight continue to enter from the tunnel entrance. You'll unexpectedly discover odd faces, skulls, and imps carved into the stones and chalk of the cave walls as you explore more. Intriguingly, you begin to notice them everywhere once you realize they are there as you move to the deeper part of the cave. Some archaeologists and scientists contend that as part of the ceremony making fun of saint statues prevalent in churches, the senior club members were required to etch their faces into the wall. Though it may not be true, there is a claim that the initial flint miners created these walls. The brutal reality of life in 1751 for the average person was that carving random faces was the last thing on your mind after a back-breaking day of lugging chalk to the surface and shoveling it in. Additionally, it's important to note that no other quarries of this type have similar carvings. As a tourist, you need to be very careful and exercise boldness as you enter, because you may start to hear mysterious voices and footsteps. Number 12. Cave dominated by cups. This fascinating cave is located at Goff's Cave in Somerset. It has helped scientists to unravel the way of life of the British about 7,000 years ago. A recent scientific analysis has shown that Gough's cave arises due to post-mortem manipulation of human remains. This implies that the cup results from the human body decaying after an extended period, with leftovers of the skull. One important thing to note is that careful cranial vault sculpting goes hand in hand with the preparation of cadavers for the consumption of bodily tissues. According to the position of cut marks and percussion features, the skulls were carefully cleaned of any soft tissues before being transformed by the controlled elimination of the face region and breaking the cranial base along a sub-horizontal plane. The vaults were retouched, perhaps to straighten out the fractured edges. This manipulation implies that the production of skull cups involves the shape of skulls. The skull cups are now used as drinking cups, depicting their relevance to historical documentation. Number 11. Oral figure archaeologists were surprised to find an unanticipated treasure, a strikingly rare clay figurine of a female, while exploring the spectacular Battifrata Cave in Italy. They were even more shocked by the artifact's dating, which revealed an astounding age of almost 7,000 years. The Battifrata Cave, an Italian geological wonder with mesmerizing stalactites and stalagmites, is located close to Poggio Nativo in the Sabina region. During their latest excavation effort, a Department of Ancient Sciences team at Sapienza dug deep into this fantastic site's complicated network of underground chambers and tunnels. The discovery of this 7,000-year-old clay figurine supports the long-standing theory that this location had ritualistic importance. Number 10. Oldest bow and arrow. In Sri Lanka, artifacts from the 45,000 to 48,000 BC era have been found, showing the bow and arrow's use by humans as early as that point outside of Africa. Around 40,000 years ago, the Upper Paleolithic period, which included the Perigordian, Aurignacian, Solutrean, and Magdalenian cultures, developed local stone tool industries throughout modern Europe. However, recent finds at this start of an epoch reveal that people were creating instruments to catch swiftly moving prey in Sri Lankan rainforests, indicating that humans quickly adapted to harsh surroundings when they first arrived on the continent of Africa. Many of the tiny points, as thin as 1 centimeter across, weighed only a few grams and were almost identical in size and shape, were among the tools. The minor points resembled other arrowheads manufactured by both ancient and modern humans, and some of them had tip damage and fractures that were reminiscent of those caused by high-velocity impact. Number 9. Translucent snails. Researchers have found a new species of strange cave-dwelling cave in the Lucena Jama Trojoma system, Croatia, one of the deepest caves in the world. The newly discovered species is part of a group of tiny air-breathing land snails that have lost their ability to see and are thought to be true eutroglobionts or exclusive cave dwellers. The new species of Zospeum thalassum is a tiny, delicate snail with a gorgeously formed dome-like translucent shell. While exploring the Lucena Jama Trojama cave system galleries, just one living specimen was discovered. The creature was found in a mysterious chamber with rocks, sand, and a small stream at an astounding depth of 980 meters. The movement of all known species of the cave-dwelling genus Zospeum is restricted. However, these animals are not precisely immobile, given their fondness for a muddy habitat, and that they are typically found close to the cave's drainage system and near running water. According to scientific theory, dispersal is accomplished by passive transit through water or larger mammals. Number 8. Mobile Cave in Romania. The Mobile Cave in Romania features breathtaking labyrinthine galleries and constricting clay-covered passageways, but that is not what makes it unique. Scientists have found that the cave contains an exceptional chemo-autotrophic environment significantly dissimilar from our atmosphere. But although on the same planet, this cave has an atmosphere radically different from the rest of the Earth. How is this possible? It is what you're wondering. This is due to the cave's lack of a natural entrance and impenetrable clay layers walled it off from the outside world. As a result, the cave's oxygen content is lower than the surface, where it is 21%, at about 7% to 16%. The people who live in the Mobile Cave have changed slowly and are very different from the rest of the world. Most contemporary life forms would not be able to survive in the conditions that these organisms do. 48 species were discovered in the cave, of which 33 were unique. The cave contains spiders, scorpions, insects, snails, and leeches. Have you ever wondered how these organisms can endure in environments with such low oxygen levels? They have developed a unique food chain. This cave's potential to solve the problem of global warming is another intriguing feature. Given that methane and carbon dioxide are the leading causes of global warming and that the occupants of the mobile cave depend on these gases for survival, they can be helpful. We can resolve the global warming dilemma by looking more closely at their mechanics. Number 7. Prehistoric shark. The prehistoric shark is another mysterious thing scientists discover in a sealed cave in Europe. The prehistoric shark skeletons are composed of cartilage, which does not preserve as well as bone and is, therefore, rarely found. Only a few specific places in the globe contain preserved cartilage. In contrast, because shark teeth are constantly being replaced during the animal's life, they are among the most common fossils discovered worldwide. Scientists went to the park to look at the fossils, and while he didn't find a complete skeleton, he did discover pieces of an ancient shark's head, which he claimed was the size of a modern great white shark. He recognized a 2-1-2-foot lower jaw, teeth, and other cartilage from a single enormous shark, and over 100 exceptionally finely detailed teeth from other shark species from what was revealed in the cave wall. Alluringly, we can infer more about how this species lived and place it more precisely in the shark family tree of the jaw's shape, which makes what we saw in the cave extraordinary, according to Hodnet. The team discovered the shark belonged to a species known as Saivod, which existed 330 million years ago during the late Mississippian geological era. Most shark fossils the researchers have found come from geological strata stretching from Virginia to Missouri. Shark presence has, however, never been documented officially before. Mammoth Cave has a rich record of fossil sharks. There's still much to learn. Number 6. Oldest winery in the world. Archaeologists found the oldest winery in a cave in the Armenian mountains. An international team of experts found drinking bowls, a grape press, a cup, and fermentation jars in the Armenian cave known as Arini I that date to roughly 6,100 years ago. Although there is older proof of wine consumption, this is the oldest known instance of total wine production. In the Republic of Armenia's Vayats, Dzior province in the village of Arini, is the Arini I cave complex. The world's oldest leather shoe, known as the Arini I shoe, was unearthed in the same cave 7 months before the winery. Arini is a small town famous for its wine. Archaeologists could only learn a little about the people who made and consumed the wine, but it is evident that those who created it in the cave winery used it in ceremonial contexts. Given that it was determined that the cave was formerly a significant cemetery location, they probably held funeral ceremonies there. The cave system in southeastern Armenia can shed light on how red wine was produced 6,000 years ago, about 900 years before they discovered the earliest comparable wine remains in Egyptian tombs. Number 5. Altamura man. A Neanderthal man became trapped in a cave 150,000 years ago, starved to death, and gradually assimilated with the shelter. Today, modern science has a remarkable understanding of one of humanity's closest extinct relatives thanks to the horrible destiny of the Altamura man. The Altamura man's fossilized bones had been lying at the bottom of a sinkhole for millennia in a cave in southern Italy. Imagine the astonishment and dread felt by the cave divers who, in 1993, found his skull, which had been frozen in place and had long since integrated into the cave itself. The tooth loss is an intriguing development. The extensive fossil record of Neanderthals is unusual, and they were in good oral health, according to Moghicheki. According to some theories, the man may have also had dental calculus, a type of hardened plaque common among dentists nowadays, in addition to gum disease and calculus. Before going extinct some 350,000 years ago, Neanderthals lived in what is today Europe and Asia. A different approach was taken in 2011 when calcium deposits from bones still inside the cave and a stalagmite that had already been fractured were gathered. By initially dating the promises that had slowly dripped onto the bones over thousands of years, the researchers hoped to date the skeleton. They examined the calcium and calculated that the Altamura man was between 130,000 and 172,000 years old. using uranium-thorium dating, making it one of the oldest Neanderthal fossils ever discovered. The group was further examined and determined that they belonged to an early Neanderthal, with a combination of ancient and modern traits. In preparation for a 2020 investigation, researchers inserted a video scope into the mouth of the skull. They deduced from tooth wear that the Altamura man had been a younger adult when he passed away. He had bad dental health and had lost at least 2 teeth in his lifetime, which was unusual for Neanderthals, who seem to have had good dental health. Even though part of the skeleton is still covered in rock, it continues to draw research since it is the most complete Neanderthal fossil ever discovered. Number 4. Paris Catacombs. The Paris Catacombs have piqued people's interest and drawn notable visitors like Napoleon III and King Charles X. In 1809, it was only accessible to the wealthy elite by appointment. Later, it was made available to the general public. The bones were arranged carelessly at the time, and the area descended into disarray with graffiti from visitors. Even the French resistance used some of the catacombs during World War II, and German forces built barracks there. But over time, the systematic stacking of the bones on top of one another in a very tidy and orderly manner is what tourists can still see today. Consider bringing a sweatshirt because the Paris catacombs typically have a temperature of 14 degrees Celsius. Ensure you only get a small bag because there is little space for storing luggage and no room for large bags. You'll travel through a maze of tunnels below Earth and see many bones. Bones are ordered geographically. The bones are unnamed. However, there are inscriptions indicating the cemetery they come from and the year they were brought there. To give the skull a gloomy appearance, it protrudes over stacks of femur and tibia bones, and crosses are positioned in the middle of the walls of bone. Number 3. Lost River Cave. The Lost River Cave is a mysterious river with a vast network of caves. You will find this cave in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The cave system comprises a network of underground rivers, streams, and waterfalls extending below the surface of the earth. Also, an unusual subterranean river that runs through the cave for more than a mile beneath the cover makes it one of the country's longest underground rivers. Lost River Cave has a long history that begins with early American settlers. Native Americans who lived in the area for thousands of years held the cave in high regard and thought it was a portal to the afterlife. The French were the first European explorers to find shelter in the early 1700s, and the English did so in the late 1700s. Miraculously, one spectacular thing about this Lost River Cave is the chert. This makes up the cave, which is covered in St. Genevieve and St. Louis limestones, were deposited during the Middle to Late Mississippian period. The river appears above ground before entering the cave's entrance in 3 brief intervals. The Blue Hole, which is why Ripley's Believe It or Not lists the Lost River as the shortest, deepest river in the world, is the most exciting area. The river is only 400 feet long, but plumb bobs showed that the Blue Hole was 437 feet deep. However, there is a connection between the Blue Hole and another underground river. Although the flow of the cave is generally consistent for much of its length, older, higher tunnels can become submerged during flood conditions. The Lost River chert frequently separates from cave walls and lines the cave floor when the limestone erodes. The detached chert blocks produce small backwaters of detention with patches of immobile flow. Minor sections of standing flow include undercut benches and recirculation with scalloped walls. Number 2. 17 miniature coffins. 5 boys discovered an odd discovery on the hills of Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh in 1836. Inside the extinct volcano is a little cave with slate walls and a stack of miniature coffins. Each of 17 coffins, painstakingly crafted from Scots pine and rimmed with tin plate, held a tiny wooden figurine. To this day, the who and why of their creation and burial are still unclear. The find's baffling nature piqued the curiosity of local reporters at the time, who speculated and put forward explanations for the figures. The building of 2 rows of 8 and an incomplete 3rd row may also imply that 17 was not the intended number, but rather the outcome of an unfortunate interruption and has nothing to do with the victims of Burke and Hare. In continuation, another abnormal observation scientists made was that the models showed varying degrees of deterioration in the figures' clothing and themselves. It is impossible to determine whether this is a result of the coffins being buried for a long time or is merely the result of various positions within the chamber. For years, locals and visitors have been fascinated by the mystery surrounding the coffins and the lack of conclusive explanation. The openness to interpretation, like with many unanswered questions, has only served to increase the coffin's continuing popularity. Number 1. Ruby Falls. Ruby Falls is one of the mysterious caves with its location in the USA, Lookout Mountain Cave. There are over 2.5 miles of mapped passages in this cave. The Tennessee River is close to the cave's natural entrance. The Pliocene bones discovered in the cave demonstrate that people have used this horizontal entrance since the Ice Age. To produce gunpowder, potassium nitrate was extracted from the Lookout Mountain Cave. In addition, during the Civil War, this cave was a temporary hospital. The United States President at the time, Andrew Jackson, visited and signed the walls while it was still a hospital because he was so amazed. In addition, the cave is home to several rock formations, such as stalactites, columns, and stalagmites. Some were created by the slow infiltration of mineral-rich water millions of years ago. The cave also has several underground streams and lakes that are home to unusual cave animals. Thank you for spraying till the end of this video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to get notifications for more inspiring videos.